Good morning. Good morning. So glad that you could be here with us. Welcome to the mat. Please have a scarf or a strap or something available. We're going to be doing some good work for our shoulders. And one of the things that I've learned over the years from physical therapists and reading and so on is that a lot of what we experience actually in our wrists and our elbows and up into our neck can actually have much more to do with what's happening here at the shoulder girdle. So just as kind of an image for you to think about, anytime this shoulder head is coming forward of the spine, and you can also see therefore it's coming forward of my hips, that it's going to create a challenge usually on down the line. So whether it's through the tight bicep tendon that pulls on the elbow and gives us tennis elbow and so on. So it's kind of magical that by finding great alignment up here, that we can create better health all the way down the line. We also are going to be doing a reclined shape over either the block or like a rolled up towel or something under the bra strap. So you want to have something handy for that. And of course, something that's comfortable that gives you the right height for sitting for meditation and just any seated breath work. So we're going to start standing with our strap and scarf, and then we'll come down to the mat and do some of our favorites like bridge pose and robot and things that'll really get us into a healthy core. So we're just going to stand with a comfortable, what I call kind of an athletic stance. The feet are a little bit wider than mountain pose, so you just feel really, really stable. And you're going to take your hands on the strap like so, maybe a little wider than the body, and you'll adjust as we go if you need to. So as you're ready, you're going to just slowly bring your arms in front and then up and notice. Do they feel like they would benefit from being a little wider? I don't want you to feel a bunch of tension in your neck area. Okay, so take them wider if you need to. And slowly bring it down. Good, let's get the breath going. Inhaling, taking it up, and this time letting it go behind you. Hold, and we're going to take about 3 breaths here. Slow, deep, and wide through the nose. Begin to notice where you feel the breath in your body, following it with your inner vision. We have our eyes that are open, and then we have the vision that's seeing what's happening inside this amazing body of ours. One more inhale, root and press through your fists, and exhaling slowly down. Notice what you're feeling. Stay holding on the strap. I can feel almost a kind of water running feeling of some of the nerves getting their circulation back in the back of my arm. Let's do that again. Inhaling, pressing forward to go up, really staying extended through the arms and allowing the arms to go behind you. And again, you might experiment, maybe going just a little bit wider on the strap gives you something good. You don't want to go too wide. And breathing. And slowly on down. Again, pause and notice what you're feeling. You might even close your eyes to deepen your internal attention. All right. We're going to take the strap and just set it aside, but we'll be back to it. So don't put it too far away. Shoulder circles. And some of you may remember these. We haven't done them for a while. You're going to just clamp your fingers in and then kind of pinch with your thumb like so. And the thumbs are facing forward, shoulder head's anchoring. And as you're ready, slowly begin to circle forward. We're going to do 25 to 30, something like that, depending on your pace. I'll give you a little countdown at some point to encourage you. But please check that your breath is moving slowly and steadily. This is a nice chance to observe if the 2 shoulders feel the same. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Try not to hold the neck. 2, 1, and release. And notice the sensations And we're going to come back into that position, except we're now going to rotate so that the thumbs are facing back. In essence, the palms are upward. And I find that it's more difficult in this position to really keep my arms straight. I have to really kind of check in on them. Shoulder heads anchoring, neck relaxed, and slowly begin circling backward, breathing, inhaling, finding the gap, and exhaling. I also like to ask of the breath, is there more? That helps me stay present and get the breath full and deep and not cut it short. All right, we got about 15 more. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. You're doing great. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Whew. Let's just do some nice circling, one arm at a time again, so we can check in and see how it's feeling. But also, when we do arm circling one at a time, we're less likely to take on a bunch of neck tension from trying to get those arms spiraling. So this is a beautiful way to feel that shoulder blade kind of anchoring towards the spine as you reach back. And let's do the other side. And as always, the more organic you can make this, the better. So if you all of a sudden get an instinct and you want to hang out at a certain angle, breathe into it, awesome. And last one, nice. We're going to come into yoga mudra, and mudra just means the hand position of yoga. It's this intertwining of the fingers and then drawing the arms down, pressing the fists towards the earth. But that's not always an option for people. It wasn't for me when I started yoga. I was so tight and my shoulder heads were curled so far forward. So if need be, take a hold of your strap with the palms facing backward, because we really want to be able to achieve the shoulder blade sandwich, as I call it. We really want the shoulder head to be able to rotate down and back. And then you can experiment, always breathe, but you might experiment with kind of pumping the fists off of the butt. You might hold there and rotate through your ribs and waistline, and that will kind of bring the stretch into that rib that's rotating there. And other side. And some of you might even enjoy the forward fold with yoga mudra. I always do that with the knees bent, because we don't really need a hamstring stretch here. We're trying to create as much freedom as we can for those arms to go up and over. And if you ever feel any neck discomfort when you're doing that, again, don't do that version, right? So we're just seeking that beautiful place where we are giving our body the support it needs to let go of these stored tensions, but we don't want to take on more. So I'm going to have you now take your right arm in front for thread the needle, standing thread the needle, and then have your left hand right at about the elbow and press in. Breathe and notice, make little adjustments. Often in these poses, I feel inspired to kind of move my head. Often my neck is ready to release because again, most of what we feel in our neck is often coming from upper back and shoulders, not necessarily in the neck itself. And let's switch. Are you noticing a difference between your right and left shoulder? How it's storing tension, maybe where? Always using breath to deepen the stretch. And release. Nice. So a stretch that we love to do in yoga for the wrists, but it actually goes way up into the forearms, is our prayer hands. And we do this a lot in our just normal practice, right? We resolve in prayer hands. A great stretch. However, if you feel, any pain, obviously right in the wrist itself, underdo it. If you're able to bring those prayer hands down so that the forearms make one long straight line across, great. And then we're also going to do a reversed prayer. And so I've noticed that when I invite people to rotate those fingertips down, most people will shrug. So a way to avoid that is to anchor the shoulders, bring the hands together kind of more down by your belly button, and then just come up as far as feels good from there. Breathing. Again, maybe observing if you have more tension, perhaps in your dominant arm. Again, depending on what you do, if you're doing a lot of computer work and clicking, if you're a bread baker, if you do landscaping, right? All these things will show up. Can you bring the roots of your palms apart so that the fingers are still touching, but you can kind of see your palms? I love this stretch. It always feels so good to me. And then after you release, just kind of wiggle them around, or as I say, play piano badly. Nice. All right, we're going to do eagle arms, which is kind of fun. It's a little adult twister. So you're going to take your right arm out in front of you, left arm up and over like you're making a big X, and the higher up you can get it over the elbow, the better. And then it's as if you wanted to bring your backs of your hands together, but you're actually going to kind of swivel and what I call slice, so that you're actually kind of slicing one palm into the other so you can kind of hook on. So I'm hooking my right hand around my left thumb pad, for example. Breathing. And what happens if you guide your elbows a little up and down, just kind of pulsing? Again, soft and slow, so you can notice if there's anything that doesn't like it. And release. We're gonna bring our left arm in front, right arm up and over, big X, and then kind of swivel and slice. And ideally, if we're kind of sliding those elbows up and down a little bit, you might be feeling some good movement around the blade. And that's what we really want to evolve there. When you feel complete with that, come on out. So we're going to do just a little flow that's great for our shoulders. There's 3 different movements in it. I want to start with the standing kind of jet airplane arms. It's basically mountain with our jet airplane arms first, to make sure we really can feel it and we can find it. So I'm going to, again, take a nice strong stance through the feet, and I'm going to rise up and rotate the shoulder heads down and back as I rotate the palms forward. And what we should feel is maybe a little bit of wrinkling kind of at the back, but I'm not arching forward, right? I still want my body, boom, strong ribs back into the spine. And if you squeeze your triceps a little towards the ribs, you'll especially feel that. Now, don't squeeze so hard that your neck tightens up, right? So find that balance. And when you are ready, join me. Like I said, there are 3 movements, and in each movement, we'll pause for an entire full breath before then continuing on. As you're ready, inhale, sweep up, and hold. Exhaling into the position, then we're going to take a full breath here, making sure the shoulder heads are anchoring. Inhaling, you can always add a little heart lift and head lift if you'd like. Exhaling, ragdoll. And if you're able to, bend the knees and bring the hands around behind the calves and see if you can kind of engage there as you breathe, deepening the fold. You're also using your lat muscles that are a huge part of shoulder health. Good. And on your next inhale, rise up to your standing mountain with jet airplane arms and hold. Full breath. Check that the neck is easy while you're doing all this really great work through those lat muscles. On an inhale, sweep up, settle into the pose for the exhale. Deep breath. So we're really training ourselves to be able to have our arms up without it becoming a trapezius shrug neck issue, right? Exhaling, folding to your ragdoll. Again, always following your breath cycle. If you let your arms just go, you can feel how it lets your shoulder blade slide towards the earth. It's kind of a nice decompression. But then you can again add that engagement of deepening your fold by holding behind the legs. Lovely. Long inhale. Root and rise up to your mountain with jet airplane arms. And pause. Full breath. The breath should always pulse us and move us. We never want to be frozen. Good. Last time, inhaling, sweeping up, holding, and we're going to really work what it takes to do a strong back bend. It's not leaning back, actually, it's pressing forward. So if this is difficult for you with your arms up, bring them down behind the butt there. Otherwise, your intention is to squeeze the glutes forward and then to progressively press the ribs and the heart forward and up. I'm keeping my vision straight ahead so that I don't stress my neck. Good. Now, briefly sweep one arm down, reaching towards the floor while you're still reaching through the other. And switch. So I can feel as I'm switching back and forth, I can really feel the work of the kind of shoulder blade squeezing along the spine and into the lat muscle. Let's do one more. Switching, switching, and ragdoll. Let it all hang. And you might kind of swivel your hips a little side to side. Breathing slow, deep and wide through the nose. Unless you're stuffy, you can always breathe through the mouth. We're just going to come right down onto our butt from here. And we're going to take a moment to wake up our quadriceps. So that's this part right on the front of the thigh. And one way we can wake them up, it's really hard to do it, when we're in our warrior flow and stuff. So I wanted to take this time here. I would like to have you essentially flex the feet. So you're pushing through your heels towards the end of the mat. And then see if you can get your feet to come off the floor by powering down through the thighs. And when you're doing that, which I bet you are successfully, you can feel these muscles are like that. And we want to be able to tell them to do that when we're in mountain, when we're in triangle, and so on, because that's when the knee is in its really stable position. All right, hope that felt good. We're going to stretch it in a little bit of bridge pose. So when you're ready, come on down. Plant the upper arm in tight to the rib cage, feet parallel under the knees. Long inhale. And exhaling, pressing up to your bridge. Again, hoping you're feeling a nice stretch through those same muscles. And inhaling down. So I'm going to pulse in and out a few times, really waking up the front and back body. So many of the challenges that we experience in our body really are about some muscle group being too tight and kind of bossy, and then the other one maybe being too loose and too weak on the partnering side. Good. One more. And release, bringing your knees to your belly. All right, we're going to come into robot and really wake up that powerful core today. So if you are new to this, you'll want to probably just do the lower body. I'll be adding the arms and talking you through that. First, please inhale, exhale, power your back into the mat. It's as if there's a scale there and you're wanting to apply a certain amount of pressure, a lot. And then as you're ready, slowly slide your knees forward away from you until they're right above your hip joints. So you've got a nice 90-degree angle at knees and hips, arms straight up. Take a nice long inhale, anchoring those shoulder heads. Exhale, power down, and slowly take one heel towards the floor, and possibly, if you're going to do the arms, reaching the other arm behind you towards the wall behind. Exhaling, come on back. Inhaling, neutral. Exhaling, other heel and opposite arm. Make sure you leave yourself enough exhale to get back to neutral. Ujjayi. Good. Inhaling, neutral. Exhaling, extending. And remember, you don't have to go all the way to the floor with the heel. You might be up quite a ways. What we want is that deep anchoring of the center body and no neck tension if you can help it. One more time, other side. And release. And so I usually need a break at least after, say 2 or 3 rounds left and right. You don't want to get to the point where your back is just gripping and holding on, all right? But let's do one more round. Make sure you root through the core, then take your knees into position, feet are flexed. Big inhale. Exhale, anchor, and one heel, opposite arm. Can you keep that arm straight, really reaching through the middle finger? Inhaling in neutral, as if it's all you would ever do, being patient with the inhale, curious. Exhaling, rooting and extending. We sometimes call this discombobulated robot because you might find that you're feeling uncoordinated. Maybe you're moving the other limbs that are supposed to stay put. Let's do one more each side. And if that's the case, then starting with doing the legs only is helpful. That's what I had to do for a couple of weeks before I could actually add the arms and have it go well. And come on back. Nice. Knees to belly. So I'm going to be bringing us into a version of pigeon today that I'm hoping you'll enjoy. If you prefer the reclined pigeon, you don't want to try something new, you can go there by crossing that right ankle onto left thigh like we do. If you enjoy the classic pigeon and you want to just do it that way, you can. I'm going to take you into kind of it's almost like a balance between the two, where we get a really nice stretch, but it's really safe for the knees. And let's actually just do a little cow cat there before we go anywhere else. Okay. So inhaling cow pose, drawing forward through the heart space. And exhaling cat pose. Really feel that. And actually after some of those shoulder stretches, I'm hoping that that cat pose feels amazing between the ribs and kind of shoulder blade area. All right. So we're going to come into this kind of blend version of pigeon as I think of it. When you're ready, after your last cat pose, bring your right knee forward like you would for pigeon. But instead of just letting our body go towards the earth here, I'm going to rock out onto my right butt cheek. Okay. And I'm leaning on my right hand. I'm going to use my other hand to kind of help my right shin bone to come towards parallel with the front of the mat. My back leg is just bent, right? I'm not trying to get it straight or have my hips or chest face the floor. Now to get the stretch, I'm going to slowly lower on down. I'm coming onto my right forearm. It kind of just depends on where your stretch engages as to how deep you'll go. If you're not getting much of a stretch, then very intentionally, especially on the exhale, powerful core, draw your torso left, as if you wanted to bring your chest onto your right calf or you wanted to kiss your right foot. And my hope is that you're feeling something really good into that right butt, hip, piriformis. Sometimes we feel it also like in the IT band outside thigh. You might be feeling it in the groin. As long as you're not feeling discomfort in the joints, then you've got a great version of pigeon going. And if you would join me, please, 3 breath releases. So nice long inhale through the nose and then exhaling through the mouth. And it might come out with a sigh or a and sometimes that's just stagnant energy moving out because we're giving it space. A couple more. Good. Last time. And really let that exhale and release take you into your deepest version of the pose. Maybe your head's really coming close to the earth. And coming slowly out. I'm just going to gently slide that right foot back kind of towards me so I can come onto my knees again. And I like to kick that right leg out behind, the one that we just stretched, kind of what I call a mule kick, like you're kicking a barn door, rotating that hip. And then we're going to come to the other side. So bring the left knee forward and then rock out onto that left butt or hip, come down onto the left forearm. And I'm going to use my right hand to encourage the left foot towards the front of the mat, working towards a parallel shin to the front. Doesn't matter if it actually gets there. Flexing the foot is valuable. That stabilizes your knee. And as you're ready, deep breaths. Big inhale, exhale, pressing your torso to the right and kind of towards the calf or the mat. Deep breath, always giving the inhale space. And sometimes on those exhales, you might already feel some of that, stagnant energy from the hip and lower spine moving right out the top of the head. I like to talk about it like being a skylight through which you can just dump any stress or energy that just doesn't fit in your system anymore. Let's do 3 breath releases. Big inhale. Last one. And release. So again, I'm releasing the pose by bringing my foot back towards me and able to roll up onto my knees and give that left leg a release. I'm going to have you kind of scooch back to the back of the mat. And depending on the space that you're in, you may not have a ton of room, but this can be fun for even a few rounds. If being on your palms is bothersome, remember please that you can go to fists. So as you're ready, I want you to round into your cat back and see if you can bring your right knee forward as if you were going to try and bring it between your hands, but you're actually going to cross your right leg over your left. Okay, so just like if you were seated. And then you're going to do the same thing. Nice inhale, exhale, round into your cat back, bring the left knee forward, and then cross it over your right. Inhaling, exhaling, cat back and cross. Inhaling, powerful core. Exhale, cat back and cross. And if this does not work for you at all, you just can't get your knee forward that much, then you could just be doing a cat back and squeezing the knee towards your chest, all right? Otherwise, if you've made it to the front of the mat, we're gonna go back. Nice long inhale. Exhale, round, and bring that other knee back to its table position. Inhale. Sorry, I meant to have you cross it. So we're crossing our way back. Talk about adult twister. I think I got confused where my body was in space. So as you're exhaling, you're rounding, uncrossing, and laying that leg back into a cross behind the other one. It's funny how much harder that is for me mentally than going forward. And come on out. Good. Find your way towards the center of the mat, coming into our first downward facing dog. Nice long inhale. Exhaling, curling the toes under, rounding into that cat back, and pressing the hips up and back. And I'm hoping this just feels great with all the shoulder opening that we did. I want you to take a moment to talk to your shoulders and see if you can encourage them to rotate down away from the ear and kind of out away from the spine. So you should feel them kind of lock into place. And there's a beautiful broad space where your head can just move freely. It's very different than when people shrug in downward facing dog. See if you can find that. And then holding that shoulder position, see if you can pulse with me a little bit. We're going to inhale, come a little forward like you would to plank, and then exhale, press back. And so this is both a massage and incredible work for shoulder stability. I'm not going all the way forward to plank. And if this much hand or wrist work is bothersome, you could be doing the equivalent of this on forearms. It's a little bit harder. Let's do one more. Good. And slowly, one hand at a time, walk back towards the feet and hang in your ragdoll. We're going to be here for a couple of deep breaths. Maybe you're just hanging with the arms. Maybe you're anchoring behind the calves. Or maybe you're hungry for one more round of Yoga Mudra. On a long inhale, root and rise, sweep up, Exhaling, prayer hands. We're going to step sideways on our mats, kind of in straddle, nice wide. See if you can get those feet parallel. And we're just going to go side to side. This is wonderful for those, again, outsides of the legs. And it might be interesting to reflect. Have you had your feet wider than your hips at all today, yesterday, the day before? So sometimes when I'm doing this, I'll even kind of take my hands to my knees and some of the, connective tissue around there. I know we were out hiking in pretty deep snow the last couple of days. I could really feel those areas tighten up. And anywhere you take your touch, you bring awareness and release. When you're ready, hold to one side. If having the hands all the way on the floor isn't comfortable or doable, you could have your hands on your thighs. I actually really love this movement too, holding onto a kitchen counter or a dining room table, sometimes just middle of the day. And as you're ready, slowly to the other side, bringing breath to this shape. And slowly back to center. Bring your heels in a little bit. Inhaling, root and rise up. Exhaling, prayer hands. So we're going to be here in kind of our goddess squat. So I've got my feet turned out a little bit. So we're going to add this arm position out here, arms straight out, kind of like you're pressing through the fists. If that's bothersome, just drop it down a little bit and for sure kind of squeeze those shoulder blades a little. Neck is soft. Remember, you can go a little bit deep in the squat or slide on down. And join me, we're going to do a little bit of breath of fire here. So wrap it in and out through the nose. And you're really using your abdomen to pump and press that exhale out. This kind of breath work is generally wonderful for us, not recommended if you're dealing with high blood pressure right now or anything else that this just makes you feel lightheaded, then I would return to some regular deep breath. Otherwise, a few more. And inhaling, slow, deep, and wide, sweep up, turn the heel straight back. Exhaling, we're going to hinge at the hip. So we're going to come into a flat back and hold. Now, ideally, our weight is midfoot. So try to notice if you feel that your weight is back into the heel, you might feel like an awkward pull at the back of the knee, for example. When in doubt, bend the knee a little bit. If you can't get a good sensation here of just good work, pushing away from the earth to press forward through the crown, slide those shoulder blades down. Now, slowly, if you would, I just want you to hinge up a little bit. When you come up, I would like you to squeeze that whole back line forward. Oh, and release. Nice. Go ahead and shake it out. So this movement of standing with our back hinged like this, by the way, this is ideally how we could brush our teeth. It would create no back pain. All right, we're going to go sideways on the mat again because we're going to come into triangle pose where we're going to use those quadriceps that we've really been waking up. The wider your stance, generally, the better this feels, but obviously if it pulls on your ankle or something, come back in. Let's rotate the right foot 90 degrees. And this is where I want you to make sure that you've got that quadricep activated. If you're just kind of hanging and locked in the joint, this is not going to be healthy for our knee and we won't get the same benefit. So once you feel that you've got that, think about rotating that left hip bone back. You might even steer your chest towards the left edge of the mat so you're becoming really flat. And then I'm going to slowly cock that right hip into triangle. I'm going to ask you to hold here without doing anything with the arms quite yet. We know that we can do some wonderful extension with the arms, and we'll add that. But I'd like you to be able to feel thoroughly strong here. So those feet are anchored, and the line of energy is going from your back foot through the crown of the head. When you feel that you've really got that and the head and the torso are all in alignment with the legs, you could release that right arm, let the hand slide down the inside of the calf a little bit. I often turn my head to look at the floor so that my neck doesn't tighten up. Make sure that that right butt cheek is still pressing towards the left edge of the mat. And if you're feeling like exploring for a couple of breaths with the left arm up, go for it. Some people prefer it up to the sky, and some even like reaching it out over the head. I find that that creates some intense kind of holding tension by my hip. I can do it, but I kind of feel like it just makes me tighter. It doesn't necessarily give me more strength or release. When you're complete, come straight up, neutral out those feet. You might just pause here, or you can also go into a nice kind of straddle ragdoll. Wonderful release for the lower back. Just notice what would feel good. Breath or two. And then we're going to come into straddle, rotate the left foot 90. Remember, you don't have to go at the same pace as I am. If you're finding something delicious, stay with it. Let's talk to our left quadricep. Wake it up. So I'm engaging until I can see that leg kind of pop out of the locked knee. Then I'm going to cock my left hip. I'm going to make sure that left butt cheek is pressing towards the right edge of the mat so that my leg is not at an angle at all. And now I'm aligning my torso with the legs, reaching from the power of that back leg forward through the crown. Hold for a breath or two to really observe that all the right stuff is working. Inhaling and exhaling. You might be ready to release the left hand, the lower hand, sliding down the inside of the leg. If you feel that you need to support or rest on the leg, you can, just never on the knee. But that's where I recommend just coming up a little bit. Come out of the depth of your pose so that it feels like you can just hold it. Doing really good side body work here. If you want to add that top arm, last couple of breaths. And on the inhale, coming slowly up, like you're trying to reach something above you. Turn the heels straight back and fold. Inhaling, turn those heels in, root and rise. Big glute squeeze forward, and exhaling, prayer hands. We're going to be coming onto the mat in a moment on our bellies. And I want to just offer before we go there, if you prefer the standing quadricep stretch to pre-bow bow, then you'd want to stay here and then join us when we move on after that stretch, okay? So those of you who are ready for pre-bow bow, you're going to come on down with me. In both of these poses, before you try to reach for either ankle, make sure those glutes are engaged deeply. And if you're on the belly, we're going to do both ankles at the same time, although you wouldn't have to. You could enjoy just doing one at a time with the opposite forearm supporting at the front of the mat. So play with that. If you've got both legs, please make sure that you re-engage the inner thighs so the knees are straight back. Shoulder heads anchoring. Breathing. And this is a challenging place to breathe. If you're on your abdomen, the floor creates a little resistance, plus we're in this back bend. So you've got to be willful. Is there more? And if you'd like to blossom into bow pose, press those ankles back into the hands. You might do this in a pulse. So inhaling, extending, pressing into bow. Exhaling, softening. If you're doing standing quad stretch, obviously make sure that you switch sides. Last time. And release. Pressing back to your child's pose. Take those knees wide, butt back by the heels. If you're standing, you could go into ragdoll. And ideally, we would feel breath so deeply that you can feel it kind of roll up from the belly, not only into the chest, but see if you can feel it in some of that shoulder blade area that we've really been paying attention to today. When your next exhale comes, tuck the tailbone so you're coming up into your table pose with stability. All right, we're gonna, speaking of stability, play with a little bit of limb extension here, and then we'll also be doing some gate pose work. Again, if need be, you could be doing an alternate on your forearms. We all wanna remain conscious of a nice core support, so we're never collapsing through the spine. When you take your next inhale, invitation to extend one arm and opposite leg and hold. See if you've dropped your core at all or collapsed your chest. Draw into your back body again. And then take your limbs just a few inches out to the side. So I've got my right arm extended and I'm moving a little right. Good. And return to center and table. This should build some good heat. Inhaling, other arm and opposite leg. Flexing the heel can really help. That'll get the glute muscle and hamstring muscles involved. Take those limbs just a little out to the side. Noticing breath, noticing wiggling, heat, and return center and table. Nice. Let's do that one more time, each side. See if you can do this as you take those limbs out to the side with even less neck work, really feeling it in the waistline, drawing this chest into the back. And return, breathing. Other side. You might be able to hear me doing my ujjayi. That's that little throat contraction. And as the breath moves through that valve, it makes that whooshing sound of waves or wind in the trees. It's a powerful way to stay present and core focused. Good. And come on back. Good. You might want to just love up those wrists a little bit, giving them a little bit of a roll. And then we're going to come into gate pose, which is again on our hands, but you could do it on forearms or fists, although it is challenging. So gate pose, so much of it is about the foundation. So we're going to take a few moments with this. I want you to, first of all, traction is if you were trying to bring your hands towards your knees, but don't move them. And see if you can feel some good deep work happening in that lat muscle as it anchors the shoulder blade and shoulder joint. I also can feel that it's really engaged and worked my core here. Now take your left foot back 90 degrees, place it flat, and I want my left leg straight. Before you do anything else, squeeze your right butt cheek towards the left edge of the mat, just like you did in triangle a little while ago. And that should help you feel very core oriented. And now just bring your left hand to your left hip. Pause. Slowly, as you're pushing into the earth with that back leg, make sure it's not bent. You're really firing the quad. And then as you get the hips and shoulders stacked, my hope is that you feel some strength and stability come into play. And you might even be able to release your floor hand. You could certainly come on to fingertips again, which would be greater wristies. And then reaching up through that top arm. If you're wiggling, you're doing this right. And if you're falling out, that's great. It's a really great chance to notice where are you losing your foundation. Another thing that can help us is intentionally bringing the lower ribs up into the upper ribs. That's what gives us that core stability that we don't even need the hand. All right, let's come on back. You might do a little cow-cat in between or love up wrists, and we're going to go to the other side. So again, I'm going to pretend that I'm tractioning, that I'm pulling my hands towards my knees. I'm going to place that right foot 90 degrees, squeeze that left butt cheek, and I'm going to make sure I'm firing up my right quadricep, pushing into the earth, into the mat. And then initially, just the right hand to right waist. Pause. Make sure that left shoulder is still anchored. We're still working at that core. See if you can lift your left hand off of the floor. And maybe you want to add that top hand. Most of us think our shoulders are stacked when they aren't necessarily. So sometimes I'll take my own touch there and just kind of check. Same thing with hips. And releasing. Come on back. Good. We're going to roll up those wrists again and love them up here. We're coming into forearm plank, which is, of course, just great for us for about a million reasons. And I'm going to offer some really nice side body work. So when you are ready, come onto your forearms, and you can come directly from here by just rounding your back and stepping back. That will put you in full forearm plank, but you can also just drop the knees, and that will make it a little more sustainable. You can walk the elbows forward for a little extra work. And pause here in this just basic version to get into your breath. Hopefully you've got a little quiver going, some heat. Good. Take a moment and relax it. And when we come back in, what I'm offering you is basically kind of a frog leg, where you're going to be bringing one knee at a time towards the arm or tricep on that side. This is hard to do if you're doing a knee down forearm plank. It would be easier done probably in table pose if you wanted to do that instead. Otherwise, when you're ready, curl those toes under, come into forearm plank, gather a long inhale, and initially squeeze your thighs. I want you to feel that squeeze. Maintain that powerful action of the left leg while you bring your right knee towards your right tricep. We just don't want that back leg to collapse. And return. Inhale, neutral. Exhale, left knee to left tricep. That right thigh is activating to the ceiling. Hello, quadricep. Inhaling, return. See if you can do one more each side. Big inhale. Exhaling, right knee to right tricep. Holding, empty, empty, empty. Inhale, neutral. You've got this. Last one. Left knee, left tricep. Holding, emptying, and release. Turn your head to the side. You might add a sighing breath. You can always go to child's pose as well if your back requests it. Or if you're wanting more heat building, downward dog is your friend. We're going to come into some cobra pumping. And this, for cobra to go well, it's a pose we often throw ourselves through during dog series, but people don't necessarily get into the alignment. And for it to go well, it's a lot of that same action you were doing in jet airplane. Actually, let's redo that here on our bellies. So resting on your forehead, let's bring the fingertips back, tented, and just a little out from the hips so I can still feel my upper arm squeezing into my ribs. Squeeze the butt cheeks down. And as you're ready, inhale, extend the spine. Your head might just come a couple inches off the floor. It doesn't have to be high to be very effective as you now squeeze those arms in. Breathing here. And releasing. Turn your head to the side and take a breath or two before we take that intelligence into cobra. When you are ready, resting on the forehead. And before you actually place your hands on the mat, keep them just kind of hovering a second. Squeeze your shoulder heads down the back and your upper arms in. You feel that? Then place the hands. Perfect. Anchor the pelvis, and now inhale. Draw the heart forward, and exhale, return. And again, it doesn't have to be high to be effective. And in fact, if we come too high, often we're just kind of working in our low back in a way that's awkward. We want to feel strong, rooted, anchoring, and then drawing that heart forward. You might be able to add a little engagement with the arms, what we call king cobra. And there's no effort to straighten the arms. I want to keep those hips anchored. One more. and release. Child's pose. Take those knees wide and butt back to the heels. It's amazing all the heat that we build in yoga, and sometimes it's even doing things that we don't consider to seem that hard, right? Maybe they aren't a plank. But a lot of it is the core muscles that we're using. When we're using the right glutes and thighs and abdominal muscles and stuff, it builds a lot of heat. So I want to offer coming into a sidearm plank. And again, if wrist stuff is, if it's feeling kind of aggravated or what have you, then you might want to play with just doing it on your forearm, like so. And, even if your wrists aren't hurting, but you just want to reduce the amount of activity that they have to engage in that 90-degree angle, this would be a great alternative, right? Just on that forearm. If you're wanting to do it on the hands, you could go straight back into your plank pose, and then you come onto the blade of one foot and stack the other foot. Okay, so that's one way to do it. You could also go into gate pose where you were a few minutes ago. And then when you're ready, you would take your lower leg to join the other one. Okay, so these are some fun ways to play with it. And again, you could also go from forearms. So you're in forearm plank, you rotate onto the outside of one foot. The key in all of these, so whatever one you're playing with, and I hope it's fun, make sure that you're using that lower waistline to press up, and make sure that you're using those quadriceps to straighten the legs. Whew, all right, come on out of that side. And when you're ready, we'll explore the other. So again, you could get there from gate, forearm plank, from plank itself, however you'd like to go about it. Shoulder heads anchored. And see if you can get that body to stay in a straight line. Tongue soft, gaze soft. So even though we're doing all this intense work throughout the rest of the body, that everything else says, hey, I'm just having a good time. This is my yoga. This is the powerful body that I'm in. If it's shaking, good. And when you're ready, come on out. Okay, we're going to actually do a wonderful counter stretch to all this. I think you'll love it on our back. So please grab a hold of either your block or your rolled up towel or blanket. We're going to be reclining with the object under our ribs, just south of, if you will, below the shoulder blade wingtips, because what we want is for the shoulder heads to be able to rotate back. So kind of tucking that object in there, and it should feel pretty darn good when you recline over it. If you are using the block and it generally feels good, but it's maybe just a little too high, then you could also just tuck your scarf or strap or a little bit of that cushion that you maybe had available under the head, so it's not quite as far of a drop. Some of us prefer that kind of firm edge of the block just below the wingtips, but without ever wanting to take on the neck tension. So if you can feel that there's just not much space between the base of the skull and the neck, it's kind of cranked back, you want to make an adjustment. So notice what breath does here. Where does it touch you? My hope is you can feel some wonderful massage happening all the way through these intercostals, maybe even into the diaphragm. When we experience stress, emotional stress, there's often a real compression and kind of curling inward that happens through not only our heart space, but our breath space. So this is a beautiful place to reclaim your most open heart and breath spaces. Your knees might be bent, or you can also remember you can have those legs straight, maybe even take them out nice and wide. And then explore with me the arm add-on, taking one arm straight up to the sky and then overhead and kind of pulsing it. It's like you're swinging it towards the ear and away. You might also enjoy rolling your head a little side to side as you do this movement. Slow, deep and wide breaths. So exploring both arms. And then please return the arms. And if you are uncomfortable here, of course, roll off to one side and just come onto your back without the block or the cushion. But otherwise, I'm going to ask you to hold here and to explore breath a little more deeply in this shape. So the next time you are exhaling, simply hold the breath out, external breath lock. And of course, we're creating a vacuum inside. And you'll notice some gentle tugs and pulls and so on. See if you can hold just past the initial instinct to break the lock. Then when you need to breathe, inhale and hold in, internal breath lock. See if you can soften your face, neck, head, chest space. When you need to breathe, release the lock. And please do one more round. Holding out and holding in. You might notice that the mind wanders. If that happens, just draw it back. Deep attention, noticing sensation, seducing the body to soften. When you are ready to come off this object of support, again, just roll a little to one side. We're going to be using the block again, so keep it handy. Take a moment in neutral, please, just on your back with nothing between you and the mat. And then as you're ready, we're going to add the block for support under the pelvis. So you're going to plant your feet like you would for bridge and then lift the hips and place the block. And we want it right on the sacral triangle, that bony part at the top of the crack of the butt. We do not want it in the vertebrae or the low spine. Some of us will be more comfortable with knees bent. You might explore straightening the legs. What offers, again, a wonderful stretch for this whole front of the body, particularly down into this low belly. So this also can aid in stress relief, enhance digestion, and it really helps decompress the low back, low spine. So, if you've found yourself after vacuuming or gardening or firewood cutting or what have you, feeling just kind of bound up, this is a marvelous way to release. Again, deepen the breath, willfully fill the abdomen. If we are trying to breathe deeply, but our belly is not moving, that's a wonderful indication to us that we are not using our abdomen during breathing, and we need to. We know that if we don't breathe into the belly, we tend to be in a bit of fight or flight perpetually. Our body gets the message, not safe. So right now, deep belly breath. Tell your whole system, I am well, I am whole, I am safe. Another wonderful mantra is plenty of time, plenty of help, plenty of money. When you are ready to come off of the block, always lift the hips, bend the knees first, lift the hips. And then you might bring your knees into belly as a nice counter stretch. Just notice what would feel good. The body really appreciates opposites. So we do one thing, then we do the other. And so we're going to come into just a little spinal twisting to close our physical part of our practice. And of course, you know, if there's something you're just hungry for that maybe the practice awakened in your body, if you're wanting to go into a flow or what have you, please do. But otherwise, spinal twisting, I'm going to be showing a seated spinal twist. That might be nice for those of you that intend to close in seated meditation, but you could also be doing a reclined spinal twist. The favorite for me is just being an embryo pose where you've got your knees bent and you're opening and closing through that upper arm. So one of the things that I like about seated spinal twist is that you can make it also like a core effort. And if you're doing that, have fun noticing if you can activate again those lat muscles, latissimus dorsi muscles that go down the sides, but are also along the back. They're a huge part of our spinal stability and what holds us upright and keeps us safe. So we want them to be strong and awake. So again, if you're on your back or side body enjoying spinal twist on the floor, go side to side, go at your pace. Seated here, I'm going to just have my hands on my legs, on my knees. I've got my legs cross-legged, but you could also have them out in a straddle if your knees are not enjoying that. And I've got my little bit of a folded up blanket under my butt so that I'm not rounded or collapsed. Gathering a long inhale through the spine. And then exhaling as you rotate to your right, think about starting it from your low belly and low spine, almost like you're kind of wringing a rag or wringing a kitchen towel. Good. Inhale, give yourself room. Exhale, rotate, wring that rag again. We'll do about 3 more here. And I'm certainly using my left hand to kind of press against my left knee, but I'm trying to make sure that the majority of the power of the twist is coming from those abdominal muscles and then that right side body. And on my last breath here, I'm going to hold and see if I can open my right arm out behind, like I've got something that I want to let land in my palm. When that exhale is complete, come on back to neutral, breathe here and notice. Can you feel more aliveness in that right side, perhaps? Gathering a long inhale. Exhaling, rotating left. Again, I'm really trying to communicate with those low abdominal muscles. You could even add the pelvic floor engagement here, like you're trying to cut off a flow of urine. And that's a huge part of our core strength. Each inhale, giving it room. Enjoy noticing where breath travels and massages you. Emptying, emptying, working that core. Couple more. And as you're ready, you'll take that left arm and extend it back. You don't have to follow all the way with your vision, so please don't crank on the neck. Just go as comfortably far as you can. Deep, deep twist on that last bit of exhale and release. So I could really feel on that last part, this sort of massage, kind of where the shoulder blade kind of folds towards the spine, much like we get during yoga mudra. So I'm hoping that you got to feel that too. So notice if you feel complete, if you're ready to just settle, whether it's into a seated meditation or into a reclined position. If you've got your block handy and a bolster, you could set yourself up for a really nice chest opening again, kind of like you were when you were reclined over the block, but much more comfortably and neutral in the spine. So this might be a nice option. You could also come into child's pose, right? Wherever you would like to be. I'm going to be offering a little breath meditation. If it's comfortable to do so, you might have your hands on your body. It might be on chest and belly. If they're open on the floor or on your knees, you might have the palms open to the sky. And if you can, just sort of feel in any position that you're in, become aware of the energy in your hands. And as you tune into your breath in this shape, begin to notice where it's traveling. Can you feel the gentle massaging movements of the breath? With your mind's eye, begin to watch the breath, hopefully beginning each inhale with the abdomen moving a little bit. And then it flows up into the rib space. And then see if at the very end of your inhale, you can feel it resonate and move you up into the upper clavicle area. Maybe you can even imagine it moving into the neck and up into the skull, massaging there where the spine and the skull come together. Notice if your mind wanders. Return it again and again to the sensation that breath is creating in your body. Notice if the mind wanders, return it to breath sensation. Be a bit of a treasure hunter or a mystery solver. See if you can find something subtle that you hadn't noticed before. Perhaps your attention has been on the front body. Is there movement in the side or back body that you can pick up on? Can you find the gap or pause that is neither inhale nor exhale, where the breath appears to almost hover, go still? We know that simply attaching our mental attention to the breath is deeply healing and powerful for our nervous system. And so, even if you are not on your yoga mat and you're, maybe moving around your house or somewhere else, and you can notice all of a sudden that you just are breathing shallowly, or that maybe you're having some stressful thoughts simultaneously, you might answer that experience with very intentionally bringing a massaging breath into your body. And by that, I mean simply deep enough of a breath that you can feel it work all the way up the front, back, and side body. Again, to bring your attention to that experience, you could even pause and place the hands on your body. I'm going to invite you now to bring your hands together and vigorously rub the palms, create some nice heat. And it's a great reminder that we all have energy centers in our hands. We are all healers, and we can all connect through our hands, as well as the rest of us, to divine energy or whatever you would like to connect with. When you feel them good and hot and you're ready, place those hands either directly on you. You might have chest, belly, or over the eyes. Or you could also have them facing you just 4 to 6 inches off of the body in your energy body. Take a few deep, deep breaths into this healing space that you're cultivating. Let that healing energy move deep into the body, deep into your organs, spine, joints, all the way down to your feet and up into your scalp. This would be a powerful time for any mantra, any affirmation that you would like to repeat in your mind or even say out loud. I thank you so much for joining me at the mat today. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace. Namaste.